This is the way the podcast ends. This is the way the podcast ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. This is, as far as I'm aware, the end of the Kokino Podcast for now. At least the end of the daily uploads of the Kokino Podcast. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. I don't even know what I was doing necessarily. Not really enjoying making these episodes. But sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But I think I've proven somewhat to myself that I can be consistent with these episodes. Because I was consistent for at least 3 or 4 months. That's long enough. I don't have to go the whole year, do I? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Who cares? No one's really listening to this podcast anyways, so I can say whatever I want. What am I gonna do now, though? At the end of this glorious Kokino podcast. Am I ever going to continue it? You know, I kind of had like a weird idea or a weird feeling about the podcast. I thought it was going to be like the podcast where anything can happen, and I thought I was going to eventually get to a point where I could interview people and, actually make some good content. But I don't know. The picture that I had in my head doesn't really match what I actually made. So this is the end. This is the end of the Kokino podcast, and in order to be all classic and good, we're going to go for a classic episode, at least 10 minutes in length. So if I repeat myself, forgive me. But you don't have to forgive me because you're not even listening to me. So I'm just going to repeat myself over and over again until the end of the world. Yes, 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 yes. This is the end of the Kokino Podcast, the legendary podcast of legend, the podcast that has been seen by perhaps maybe 10 people at most. I guess that's a better number than 0. I've gained approximately 20 subscribers since making this podcast. I'm not sure if it's because of the podcast, though. It might have just been because of the stuff that I uploaded previously, like my audiobook of Film Crit Hulk's introduction to his book. I actually recorded 2 or 3 chapters of his book, but I'm not going to upload any of them to YouTube. Because, the book is copyrighted. It's owned by him, and, it would be kind of rude to upload the actual book in audio form without his permission. And I'm pretty sure I won't be able to get his permission because he's probably going to be like, too many people put too much work into this, or something like that. But whatever. This is the end of the Kokino Podcast, as I have said over and over and over again. I don't know which way my life is going to go from this point. I don't know if I'm going to maybe continue making these whenever I feel like it instead of daily. Because if I do them daily, I just end up making dumb content that doesn't make any sense. But if I did these when I actually felt like it, maybe I'd actually make good content. Maybe I should just leave the Kokino Podcast for times when I want to actually rant about something, when I want to actually say something meaningful about something. That might be a good idea. But, I never really want to say something meaningful about something, especially publicly on YouTube. I've never really wanted to say anything. It's hard to say that's not true, but I think that's at least 90% true. There's percentages, right? There's likelihoods. That's how you calculate the world. You can't say in exact terms, oh yeah, I never wanted to record any episodes of this podcast. Of course I've wanted to before. But that's the amount that I've wanted to is 5%, while the amount that I haven't wanted to is 95%. Thinking of it in percentages that way, that's the way that it goes. And what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm still trying to think on it. I'm stalling with my words and trying to think about what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or what I'm going to do in the future, if I'm going to even pursue anything on YouTube. I'm kind of tired of the way YouTube is. I mean, I don't really think the content that I'm making is good, per se, or anything like that, but I just don't like the way that YouTube is now. I preferred the YouTube of 2006, when everybody watched everything that was uploaded, and only the really good people got a lot of views and subscribers, I guess you could sort of say that it's sort of like that now, but if you don't make something that's related to something, like some kind of movie or TV series or other YouTuber, then no one's going to see you. No one's going to see what you made. Unless you share it on Reddit, but people on Reddit don't like don't like it when you share videos that you've made. They think it's self-promotion. Well, where are you supposed to promote? Where are you supposed to share stuff that you've made? I just don't know, you know? I shared one of my videos that I uploaded. I've only shared one of my videos that I've uploaded on this podcast, I believe. It's the one that I did about Super Mario Sunshine. I shared that to r/gaming. Got about 4 upvotes, but it got 1 dislike on the actual video. That's usually what happens. It can get 4 or 5 upvotes, but then once some idiot, moron, bad person, jerk decides to just downvote it on YouTube. Which I don't even know if it affects anything, but hurts a little bit. Always hurts a little bit when you get downvoted. So what am I going to do now? I still have like 5 minutes left to talk about stuff for the last episode of the Kokino Podcast. Am I going to do Let's Plays? You know what? I've been trying to get better at doing comedy, and I found out what my problem is with doing comedy is that I'm not willing to try it in front of people, and that's the only real way to become good at comedy is to try it in front of people, is to try things and fail, and eventually maybe succeed, maybe get someone to chuckle, or maybe get someone to laugh. And I even found a way that I can do that without having to interact with people, you know, live in front, and then interact with people, you know, in real life. I found a video game called Comedy Night, where it's basically a stand-up comedy game where you stand up in front of a bunch of people and do comedy. It's kind of a game where a lot of people like to just, like, shitpost. I mean, the vocal equivalent of shitposting, you know, just repeat the same jokes over and over again. But, yeah, I know that if I actually did practice there, I'd probably learn a few things about what it means to make people laugh, or at least what it means to interact with people, to interact with an audience. I think I've tried actually interacting with an audience all of maybe 3 times. The first time that I actually tried to interact with an audience, it was so embarrassing because for some reason I had stayed in a room for longer than usual and just left the computer on for like a night. And so I was the admin. And so I went up there and then everyone just kept on shouting me down because I wasn't saying anything. And I thought I was going to eventually get banned or kicked from the stage, but since I was the admin, I wasn't, so it was just this awkward downward spiral, constantly going more and more down, and I kept on trying to make it okay, but it wasn't okay. It was like a 10-minute downward spiral of me just going down, 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 while people got madder and madder and madder, and eventually a bunch of them left. It ended with me desperately starting to sing a song from like a Disney movie, and eventually people actually liked that. The few people who remained. They said, why didn't you just do that? And then I quit the game and left. And that was really, really awkward and embarrassing. But whatever, I tried. And then the second time that I tried, I was trying to actually tell a joke. It's a joke about 2 hunters out in the forest. While they're out hunting the forest, one of them like grasps at his heart and falls down on the ground, so the other one takes out his phone and dials 911. And the 911 operator says, "Hey, 911, how can I help you?" And the guy says, "Oh my God, I think my friend's had a heart attack. I think he's dead." And the 911 operator is very trying to calm down the situation. It's like, "All right, calm down, calm down. Now, let's just make sure that he's dead before we do anything else." And so he hears on the phone like 2 loud bangs, bang, bang, bang. And then he hears on the phone the hunter, "Okay, now what?" You know, I tried to tell that joke, and I actually turned off the audience participation while telling that joke. There's a button you can press that prevents people from speaking, that mutes them, and so I did that. And so that really wasn't, but I was really, really nervous while I told that joke because it's like, I don't know, I just, I'm very nervous in front of a stage, in front of an audience. And so I told that joke and then I just left the room. So the third and final time that I went in front of an audience in this game, Comedy Night, was a time when I decided that I was just going to interact with the audience, and I don't know, I shifted something in my head and decided that I was going to be loud and, well, not loud, but just interact with the audience and see what happens, which is what I had tried to do the first time, and that ended so well. But this time I was going to try harder to actually listen to what the audience was saying and just kind of improvise, say something. So I got on stage and actually interacted with the audience for a little bit. And, I was silent for a little bit, and I was listening to the audience, and I was like, okay. And they said stuff, and I made a few jokes, sort of. I don't know. I made a few comments. I don't even know if you could consider them jokes, but I made a few comments that related to things that people were saying about me, and about like the people, like the person who had come on previously. I made a few comments about there were these people in the room who named themselves like Black Priest or something like that, and there were like 3 people with that same name, and they were all like preaching as a joke, I guess. And so I made a comment about that, and that's pretty much it. That's all that I did. And I think I didn't hate it when I was there and doing it, but I hate getting into it. I hate starting up any kind of thing. I hate starting up any kind of speech in front of people. Like, that's what I didn't do the first time. I didn't start. I just sort of like stalled. And if you stall, then you're dead. You have to start. And it's really difficult for me to start, So that's what I did with the comedy night. But I don't know, this is the last episode of the Kokino Podcast. I opened my mouth and said some random things. I don't know. Do I have anything else that I can get off of my chest? Just in order to, like, be resolved about this? Not really. I don't know. I gotta start making actual content and something. This is the thing. I don't think I've learned anything. I think I learned more making just those 3 times that I actually went on the stage. And I've been on the stage in the game Comedy Night more than 3 times, but those 3 times are the times that I actually tried. I think that I learned more those 3 times about like how to present something and how to deal with an audience and how to actually make content than I learned doing all of these things. Doing all of these audio things, because like I don't listen to, that's like a thing, like you can't really know what their reaction is going to be until you see them react, right? You got to have kind of a curiosity about the way people react. That's why pranksters end up being so good at comedy. They're actually curious about the way people react, and they're actually willing to probe that curiosity. They're willing to try and get people to react, whether negatively or positively or whatever. And I think that everybody kind of has a curiosity of how people react in situations. It's like just a human, that's what it means to be human. But like comedians are the people who are willing to test that, who are willing to push the boundaries and actually see what happens, I don't think I've ever really done that. I've ever tested people or tried to see what people will react like. I have been curious about the way people react, but my way of doing it is to just show people like a video or something, show people a YouTube video or show people a series that I've been watching and see what their reaction is, or tell them a joke or talk about it, I've never tried to actually make something awkward on purpose for the sake of seeing someone be awkward and seeing how they deal with that. It's a curious thing that happens. I noticed that my brother, who is very good at comedy, does that a lot. He likes to probe people. Well, I mean, probe is like a weird word, but he likes to test people. He likes to test what their limits are, or to just see how they're going to react in a certain situation when he does something awkward and weird. And I guess that's a good way of learning how to be a comedian. But like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't know. I don't got anything else to say, do I? Is there anything else that I can get off my chest? I don't know. I'm just kind of pissed, I didn't really follow through with this. And I do think that it's something that needs to end at this point, because it's going nowhere fast. Not just in terms of views, but also in terms of like I'm not actually speaking my heart out. I'm not actually saying something that comes from myself. I'm usually saying something that's just nothing. And I guess that's just something that happens when you try to whatever I did. I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't even think straight. My whole idea of thinking straight is not even understandable. I can't even open my mouth and say something meaningful for like 14 minutes. This is crazy, This whole world is crazy, and I feel crazy, and I feel dumb. Like, I feel kind of bad stopping this now. I don't even know if I'm going to. I probably am, because the only way to move on is to end it, right? to end it and do something else, do something that's more meaningful. It's not like it's the actual physical end of the world or something. I think that the Kokino Podcast is a very useful tool that I can use in order to like create some kind of self righteous soapbox that I can say whatever I want in and not have to worry about repercussions because no one watches it. But yeah, I'm only probably going to do that when I feel like it. And I'm never going to feel like it. That's the thing. I never feel like making things. I never feel like doing it. I only feel like doing it while I'm doing it. Like, I feel like talking now that I've started talking and opened my heart and said something that I might regret, Now that I've said that, that makes me feel better about this, That makes me feel like I want to just keep talking forever because this is the end. This is the final episode of the Kokino Podcast, and I don't know what else to say, but I just want to keep it going until at least 20 minutes, man. We got to make this an actual finale, a finale that means something to everybody who listens to the Kokino Podcast. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen, man. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's going on in my head, and I don't know why I feel compelled to keep on speaking when I have nothing to say, but I just feel compelled to keep on speaking when I have nothing to say. So, there's this weird thing that's going on with my like accent, like dialect, the way that I'm speaking. And I don't know if you're hearing it right now, but like I've been watching The Wire. As maybe if you've ever listened to any of these episodes of this podcast, I've mentioned that I've watched The Wire. I've been watching The Wire, and there's a character in The Wire called McNulty. His last name is McNulty, and I forget what his first name is because I'm not good at remembering names. I'm only good at faces and like personalities and whatnot. But he's like the smart detective dude who's very proud and wants to like prove that he's a good detective, and so he's addicted to being a detective and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But he speaks kind of like with I'm not certain about it, but I think it's a Maryland accent, an accent that comes specifically from Maryland, because it sounds almost like a Boston accent, but it sounds kind of like different. It sounds kind of like there's more stuff to say, blah, 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 something like that. I can't quite do it. But I've been slipping in and out of it because also, like, I've had a cold for a while. And that cold gives me a stuffy nose. And so that stuffy nose makes it so like my voice sounds a lot more nasal than it normally would. And I think in order to make up for it, because I don't like speaking with a nasal voice, and so in order to make up for it, I'm speaking in sort of an accent in order to just make it sound not like me nasal, because me nasal would sound southern, and I don't like sounding southern. And so like I end up just sounding like him. I don't know if I do sound like him actually, but like when I hear my voice from my own perspective, I end up sounding like him for some reason, the McNulty person from The Wire. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why. I guess I've just been watching way too much of The Wire. I've gone through like 3 seasons in like a week. Well, that's not entirely true, but it's sort of true. And I'm already on the 4th season, and there's only 5 seasons. I don't even necessarily like The Wire that much. I like certain episodes. I liked the first season. It was very gripping, and it got interesting. It took a few episodes before it got interesting, but then it got interesting. I liked the second season, too. That also took a few episodes before it got interesting. The third season was just a slow grind, though. It was boring as crap. And there were really interesting things in it, very interesting concepts, like the concept of like a free zone where drugs are allowed, and like that guy who tried it out and actually made crime go away or whatever from the other corners or whatever. I don't know. It was a very interesting concept but it was still very, very slow season, and it was so boring. Season 4 is actually picking up, and it's coming from a different perspective, so I like it. It's coming from the perspective of the kids, and I always like seeing things from the perspective of kids. I don't know if it's just that I'm obsessed with being a child and living out the fantasy of being a child, or if it's something else, but I've always liked the idea of kid characters being kids and being smart or whatever. Like, I wanted to write like a story. If I were going to write a story, like a medieval story about some castles and dragons and stuff, I'd make it like a story between kids who go on an adventure or something like that. That's what I wanted to do. And so, like, I've always been interested, like Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow, anything that features kids is, like, more interesting to me, because I guess the youth has, like, this kind of weird way of dealing with the world that's different than adults. And it's very I don't know. It's fascinating to see. It's fascinating to see the way that kids deal with trouble and the way compared to the way that adults deal with trouble. That's why I like the movie My Neighbor Totoro. The unknown first episode of this podcast was kind of about that. You know, I mean, like I kind of retroactively made it an episode of the Kokino Podcast, but whatever. That was what it was about. I made a whole podcast episode about My Neighbor Totoro and how the kids are smart and they actually feel like real kids. Great. What else do I have to say? Can I go for 25 minutes? Man, you know what? Like, I've already done the can I go for how long can I go talking. I can go talking forever, you know? Because if I don't have to talk, if I don't have to come up with some topic to talk about, then I can go on forever. I've actually gone on forever. I've gone on for 3 hours talking. I can link you to the episode if you want to see that. It was a let's watch someone play instead of a let's play. I recorded myself. I've even talked about it on this podcast. But I don't know. No one's watched the earlier episodes of this podcast. But yeah, I was watching a Super Mario World 3 let's play, or actually a long play of it, with the whole game. And so as I was watching it, I was just talking about comedy. I was trying to learn how to do comedy then too, and I couldn't. It took me like about 15 to 20 minutes to get over the awkwardness before I could start talking. And then I was talking, and then like once I'm talking, I can't shut up because like why? Why shut up at this point? I've already put my life on the line or whatever. It feels like I'm putting my life on the line when I'm starting to talk. When I'm jump starting the conversation, it feels like my life is on the line and I'm dead. And then once I get over that hump of jump starting the conversation, then I feel like, okay, well, I already put my life on the line, so I better fucking make this like squeeze as much juice, as much milk out of this cow as possible, because I'm not gonna stop. Like, I'm not gonna be able to start talking again for a long time after this. It's the way that it feels, man. It's the way that it feels to try and talk forever. I don't know if I have it in me to talk forever, but whatever. Doesn't matter if I have it in me to talk forever. My family's about to move to Milwaukee. We just got, the house got approved. We're about to buy it, and we're about to get, since my dad has an online job, that means that we're going to be able to be paid, Washington or Tacoma wages, high wages in a low-income place. So we'll be able to afford the housing and all that very much a lot easier. Like, it's going to be $500 a month rent for, 10 people living in a house. It's going to be easy, and it's a house that actually fits 10 people. It's like a duplex or something. And I'm kind of weary about it a little bit. The only thing I'm really weary about, and it's something that I don't even know if it matters because we're going to be in a house, but I'm worried about the cold because I have never lived nor been on the I've never been in the Midwest or wherever you want to call that, in that part of the world, in that part of the United States. I've only ever lived on the West Coast, and the West Coast doesn't get that cold. Even Washington doesn't get that cold. It gets maybe 20 degrees at the lowest, and that's on a very, very harsh winter day. But meanwhile, Milwaukee, that's 20 degrees is like the norm. The norm during January is 20 degrees. I guess it's 30 degrees, but the norm is definitely snow. And the lows are 12 degrees. And it's the record low is probably minus 33 degrees or something. So it's it's going to be a lot colder. And all of my family members are saying that it's going to be fine because we can deal with cold. It's the heat that's hard to deal with, But when it's cold, all you need to do is put on more blankets. But I don't know, man. That's very cold. That's cold beyond cold, man. Sounds really cold. Whatever. Also, the house is kind of messy because we bought a really cheap house. We bought a $50,000 house. So we're going to have to clean it up. We're going to have to do some work on it. But I'm not going to have to pay rent. So that's pretty good for me. That's a pretty good situation for me. And I'm thinking that once I get over there, I'm going to actually try and start, investing in real estate, Because I never invested in a college education. I didn't go to college, even though I probably could have. And so now I'm going to try and make money in one of the other ways, one of like an entrepreneurship kind of way. Maybe I'll even start a few companies. Maybe I'll start a few online companies, write a few apps. Just going to try and make money online and also try to make money through investing in real estate. We'll see what happens. I actually have a decent amount of money saved up because I've been working like a minimum wage job here in Tacoma. That's about $12 an hour for a minimum wage job, and been able to save up a decent amount of cash because I haven't spent it on anything except food and, helping my family out. So I'm in a pretty good situation, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know what the future holds, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to face the future bravely or if I'm going to be able to face the future like a coward. I don't know, maybe a mixture of the two, who knows. I am really just treading water here because I don't have much to say other than that. Of course I have things to say, but like I have to dig deep into myself before I'm willing to actually share those things. It's really weird the way my brain works. I don't know why that is. Like that stuff about Milwaukee, that stuff I've been holding on to since like, I don't know, a month, for at least a month at this point. And I just never said anything about it. Now I said everything that I needed to say about it. And maybe there's more that I need to say. Maybe I'm looking for extra stuff to say, but I can't think of anything else. Going to Milwaukee, and I'm okay with that. I don't know what I'm going to do for work and what I'm going to do to get money. Maybe I'll even go to college. Who knows at this point? I'm 27. It's kind of late to go to college unless I'm going for like a 4-year thing. I wanted to go to college and become an engineer because that's like a cool name for a job. Not necessarily because engineering is cool, although it is, but just because it would be cool to say I'm an engineer. And then I wanted to go to college to go become an architect, but then you figure out that becoming an architect takes 8 years. And I think becoming an engineer also takes 8 years. So that's like 8 years of my life. I'm going to be like 35 by the time I get out of college if I do that. Don't know if it's worth it, man. Don't know if it's worth it to spend that long and to have that much debt. Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Might be better just to try and invest in things, try to start my own business, try to do whatever. And if I end up succeeding at that, starting my own business, then I can go to college for fun. Take some classes that I'm actually interested in, Take some more art classes, take some engineering classes, take some math classes, learn really advanced math, learn how to become an engineer and design things, and then just design things as a hobby, Be fun to do things as a hobby. So what else have I got to say, man? Is this going to be a 30-minute episode? This is the finale of the Kokino Podcast. I got to make something special happen, don't I? I got to tell you all a story or something, But I don't got any stories to tell. I've already told all my stories on this podcast. I've run out of content like ages ago, eons ago. I had to resort to talking about The Hollow in the previous episode. A Netflix series that I watched that was mediocre at best, and at worst it was just a horrible kids show that doesn't have anything to say. But now I'm just sitting here and talking about nothing, because talking about nothing is something that I enjoy doing. I wish that other people would enjoy doing it as much as I enjoy doing it, but no, that's not the case. Most people like to have something that gets talked about, something important that gets talked about. But not me. I'm good with whatever I got. I'm good with whatever I have. I am dancing around the forest and waiting for some kind of monster to come out. Why not go into one of those improvisation things that I do, right? I do those things in this podcast too. I'm going to give you every type of content that I make on this podcast, all right? So look, I'm dancing around the forest. In the middle of the forest is this little girl. She's crying. She's not actually a little girl. She's actually a wizard, a witch, and she has very magical powers. And for millions and millions of years, people have been trying to make contact with her because they know that if anyone is able to get to her heart, if anyone is able to befriend her, they will become the most powerful person in the world, because this witch is the witch that has the power to control the weather. In fact, when she cries, it rains all over this kingdom. And when she gets angry or when she gets depressed, it gets cold. It snows in this kingdom. When she's happy, it's sunny up in this kingdom. So whoever has control of that little girl in the middle has control of the entire world. But she's surrounded by this shield of trees and animals and dirt. And there's no way to get to her. People have been able to get past maybe one wall, but as soon as someone breaks into that first wall, they're never heard from again. They're gone forever. They disappear into the void. At least that's what the stories say. No one knows what happens to them. No one knows, like, if they die. Because once you go in there, there's no way out. They might even befriend the girl. Who knows? They don't even know, man. There might be like a whole group of people hanging out in there, because once you go in, there's no way out. People have tried to put like ropes in there and like go in with themselves tied to a rope and have their friends pull them out. But the second their friends pull them out, try to pull them out, the rope just disappears. Or the end of the rope disappears, as if it were cut, as if it were burnt. I don't know. It just disappears. And so they're trying to get into this place, but they can't. And neither can I. So I'm trying to dance. I'm trying to dance and entertain this girl, to make her be like happy and stuff. And maybe if I make her happy, she'll want to be my friend, and I'll be able to control the entire kingdom, you know? That'd be great. You know, I'd be able to enforce the policies that I want the world to have, you know? And not just the policies that the world wants the world to have. I can be king. I can be emperor. But you know what? I'm kind of bored of this dance. This dance is boring, and so I'm going to try singing. I'm singing to this girl, but she's not doing anything. She's not coming out of her shield. I guess I did nothing. I guess I'm a failure, and I guess I haven't penetrated the shield. I haven't gotten beyond it, and there's no way for me to get beyond it at this point. And so all I'm doing is doing a ridiculous dance over and over again, and not reaching anyone with this dance. With this crazy, crazy dance. This crazy, crazy dance that is the Kokino Podcast. This crazy, crazy dance that is about to end. But I don't want it to end. I don't want it to ever end. But it's gonna have to end at some point. This dance goes over and over and on and on and on and on. Man, I don't know. That was approximately a few minutes. And that was an improvisation. I don't know why I do these improvisation things. I guess it's because I don't know what to think about, and it's more fun to improvise than it is to tell something real to someone. It's more easy for me to do that kind of stuff because it's fun. It's fun to world build. It's fun to have that kind of concept. Like there was one person that no one can reach, but if someone could reach them, then they would be able to have control of the entire world. It's like a kind of a puzzle that you have to solve, and it's interesting, and it makes you want to think, who would be able to solve that puzzle? And what if there were more factors to consider? What if there were more ways to reach someone? I don't know. It just seems interesting. It's interesting to have concepts, and it's interesting to explore them. And I want to write some stories and stuff, but I haven't written any stories. I mean, I have, but I haven't finished any stories. I never finish anything. This podcast included. I said that I was going to go for an entire year with this podcast. I was going to go all the way. 365, but I said 300, like 356 because I forgot what a year was because I was nervous in front of the microphone. But yeah, I was going to go for 365 episodes of this podcast, but now I've given up, and now this is the end. This is the final episode of the Kokino Podcast, at least the final episode of the daily Kokino Podcast that no one has been watching, that no one has ever watched. And I don't even know that I've tried hard enough to make it watchable, you know? I bet that if I were to, like, make an episode review of every single episode of anime that comes out this season, I would get a few followers. I would get a few people going, hey, I want to watch this guy because he's making constant content, and it's content that I want to see because I want to see someone's opinion about something, and I want to be able to get it daily, and so this guy's doing it daily. I'm glad. I'm going to listen to this guy. I'm going to follow this guy. Maybe I get like maybe about 100 followers or something. Who knows? But so far with this Kokino Podcast, I've been talking about pretty much nothing. The only things that I've gotten comments on, I've gotten a comment on Mori Ogai. The one about Mori Ogai, I have no clue why. I guess there's an anime character called Mori Ogai or something because no one knows about the author, or hardly anyone knows about the author. And the comment that I got was about my voice. He said, man, clear your throat. And I said, better? That was my comment back because I wanted to be snarky and I didn't like his comment. And then there was this guy who made a comment on my Finnegan's Wake video. I think I have a total of 5 views on that Finnegan's Wake video. So this one guy made one comment on it. And he said, wow, you know what? Just read Finnegan's Wake all the way through and you'll understand it. Or maybe you won't understand it, but you'll just get a kind of a gist of it and you'll catch more things than you're aware of. And then he also pointed me out to like this website that had like, interpretations of all the lines of text in the Finnegan's Wake. But I already knew about that website. So I told him, thanks. So I thought he was being cordial and polite and nice. So I said, thanks. I'll check that out. I actually do know about that website. But yeah, I haven't checked that out in a while. So maybe I'll check that out. And so what else, man? I got a comment on something else, too. Got a comment on the one about the Hollow. This dude said that he saw the entire series of the Hollow and he wanted me to watch the whole thing because he didn't know how to feel about it. Well, and then I made an episode about that, about how I felt about the end of The Hollow, because he didn't know how he felt. And I said that I felt that it was a worthless ending and it was a worthless series because it had nothing to say. Oh my God, I'm just recapping stuff now. What else did I get comments on? I've gotten comments from, my uncle, because he's been watching a few episodes of this podcast. But from outside people, I haven't gotten that many comments. I haven't gotten many comments at all. I've just gotten, oh man, was there another one, man? I'm trying to think now. I think there was another one, and I'm trying to think about which one it was. I think I got a few comments on other things too. And I got a few likes on videos. I got a few likes. The first video that I got likes on was the one that I made about Digibro, because there's so many people who are obsessed with Digibro. There's like these huge Digibro fans, and they love watching anything about Digibro. And there's also these people who hate Digibro, and who love watching videos about like how bad Digibro is. And so like I think I got some of both of that crowd, because I said something good about Digibro, and I said something kind of iffy about Digibro. And so maybe that's why I got likes on it. I also got a few likes on my video about, down the rabbit hole. Because all I said that it was, like, he was good at journalism because he wasn't really putting his own voice into anything. He was only quoting people. And he was using those quotes of people to make an interesting story. And I found that kind of interesting and fun. Did I get any more comments? I got a comment on my video about Jackie's incarceration tales because Jackie apparently deleted the channel, Ben and Jackie's College Fund, so there's no way you can actually watch the incarceration tales anymore. So I got a comment asking, where are those people now? Does anybody have a link to the incarceration videos? Because I can't find them anymore. I can't find the channel anymore. Has it been deleted? So I got a comment saying that. And, anything else, man? Yeah, I think I got a few more comments, but not really. Not that many. Not that many comments, not that many likes, just a few views. And like when you get a view, it's not really an actual view. It's just someone like bumping into the video and watching 30 seconds of it and then leaving. And that's kind of depressing. But anything else, man? Anything else that I got to say about the legendary Kokino Podcast? Am I going to make this thing last an hour? This finale, this amazing finale that is so amazing that I'm just continuing to talk forever and ever and ever and never going to end because I can't think of anything else to say, but I don't care that I can think about anything else to say because my brain eventually comes up with something, because everybody's brain eventually comes up with something to say. Like that's just what happens if you open up your mouth and talk and get over the hump of trying to, put yourself out there. And once you're over that hump, you could just keep going forever and ever and ever. But, all good things have to end, and all bad things have to end. And this is a good and bad thing for me. Like, it's good in that it's proven that I can actually constantly upload content daily, but it's bad in that I haven't really uploaded any good content, and I haven't really gotten that much better at making content, I think that I was going to get better for a little while. I was trying to think about what I was saying beforehand and actually plan things and do that stuff. And I did try to do that for a few episodes, but I didn't want to do that. That wasn't the whole point of this was to be able to talk off the cuff about stuff and not about, planning how I'm going to say things. Because if you plan how you're going to say things, of course you can say something clever and good. But the real clever people are the people who can say something off the cuff without having to worry about it, The people who can have a conversation and keep it going and make it interesting for everybody who's watching. That's the real interesting people. Especially in the YouTube sphere of knowledge. So I don't know. This whole thing was just to be able to build up my skills at being interesting. And I don't know that I've ever been interesting. And I don't know if I ever will be interesting. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much. It matters that I tried, I guess. I put forth an attempt. and that attempt was a failure as far as views, and maybe a slight success as far as consistency. I've been able to keep it up for a long time, even though I've made some kind of, shit post podcast, just like random stuff that doesn't make sense at all. But I've kept it up, a video a day, and that's something that's something that maybe I should at least be proud of, or at least have a little bit of vanity about, have a little bit of like, oh, I am capable of doing this, I can do this. But at this point, I don't even care if I can, because I'm depressed, and I don't know if I'm ever going to not be depressed, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get out of this rut that I'm in where I don't really want to do anything. The only reason I've been able to do this is because I don't really want to, but I don't really not want to either. It's like I'm completely indifferent about the entire world, and about the entire world of podcasting too. And I don't care about how good it turns and how bad it turns and which way it goes. I'm just making it, and that's all I'm doing, and that's all I can do. And so now I guess I gotta say my final words, because 40 minutes seems like it's long enough for a finale. So these are the final words. That quote at the beginning was a bastardization of a poem by T.S. Eliot called "The Hollow Man" or "The Hollow Man" or something like that. It's something like "This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends, not with a bang but with a whimper." And I found that when I first read that poem, I found it very interesting because I'd never really heard something like that, a concept like that. It was conceptually interesting. And often poetry is not conceptually interesting. It's interesting in a visceral sense, like it gives you a feeling like you're there, or a feeling like you understand what it feels like to be this. But this was a conceptual thing, not with a bang, but with a whimper, right? You think about Fallout, you think about post-nuclear apocalypse or whatever, but the world doesn't end with a bang. It ends with the last human whimpering and dying, withering away and dying, the last tree withering away and dying, because there's always going to be a last person, and that last person is going to wither away and die. And that's what I thought about it. And I don't even know if that's accurate. I don't even know if that's what that means. That's my own interpretation, my own understanding of what that means, and what it means to me personally. And I guess that's all I can ever give, is my own understanding and interpretation. I can only ever digibro it, right? Just digibro, include myself in everything, right? People, there was an argument that Digibro was having with his. He's making this video called Digibro Argues with Everyone, where he decides to argue with people. Like, he invites people into a chat and lets them argue with him about something. And someone was arguing about how he kind of put himself too much in his videos. And I knew exactly what the guy was saying, but he wasn't really making the point very well. What I think the point that he wanted to make was that Digibro is selfish as opposed to most YouTubers, and that his videos are more about himself than they are about praising an anime or making an anime look good. They're more about his own perspective, and the focus is too much on him, and it's almost like he's not even aware of how much the focus is on him. It's weird. But whatever, I don't even have a comment on that. I'm not even sure what I'm doing. So this is the end. This is the final words of the Kokino Podcast, the daily Kokino Podcast that has been going on for, let's count it out. Let's hear some clicks. Listen to these clicks for a second. I'm going to count out how many I've made. I've made 130. This will make 131. 131 is the final episode of the Kokino Podcast Daily. We'll see what happens next time, if there is a next time. So just watch this ball tumble down. Imagine the Kokino Podcast is this giant snowball rolling down the hill. It rolls and rolls and rolls for 130 miles, and then when it gets to the bottom of the hill, it's catch so much speed that it goes hurling itself into the air, and it hurls all the way into nowhere. And then it falls and falls and falls and falls, and it's approaching the ground. It's approaching the ground at more and more speed, and then, before you know it, it hits the ground and explodes into nothingness. I'll see you all next time, if there is a next time. This is the end of the Kokino Podcast. Perhaps for life, but perhaps not. You never know. Goodbye. Oh yeah, and have a good life. Can't forget the catchphrase, have a good life. Have the best life of all time. Go pursue your dreams. Go find what you want to do and do it. Do it the best you can. Because I know that you can, and I believe in you. All right. I'll see you guys later. This is the end. Goodbye.